Cart driver Unanda is trying to set me at ease. He's absolutely convinced his ox cart is protected by the spirits. Yesterday, he prayed for their help in a shrill ceremony of incantation. I'm on the run again, on the run from the rat race. I'm consciously avoiding modern means of transportation, deliberately trying to get around the old-fashioned way. I'm on a trip through the past, in a country where a military dictatorship has brought progress to a virtual standstill for almost half a century. Myanmar seems as if it's in a time warp. But I'm not here just because I'm nostalgic for the good old days. In this country which has been involuntarily frozen in time and isolated from the rest of the world, I'm looking for values which in other places have become the victim of unbridled technological innovation. This country, formerly known as Burma, reminds you of a place you thought no longer exists. It transfigures itself into a picturesque work of art from a long-gone era. This is Burma, and it will be quite unlike any land you know about. So said Rudyard Kipling more than a century ago, when Burma was a British colony. Around me are the monumental ruins of the ancient royal city of Bagan, a great metropolis which King Anwarata made into the capital of his Burmese empire more than 1,000 years ago. Over 2,000 religious structures were built in only 250 years in order to bring the salvation of nirvana a step closer. Formerly, alongside Bagan's religious buildings, there stood wooden houses and palaces for the royal family, courtiers and civil servants, and simple bamboo huts for the common people. Today, I meet only a few farmers between the monumental temples and pagodas, along with Western tourists. Bagan was the earthly manifestation of the spiritual cosmos of its time, a sort of Buddhist Jerusalem. From the point of view of our materialistic society, this country is very poor. There are hardly any refrigerators or stereo systems. The electricity supply is miserable. Cars are rare and roads are horrible. Despite this, I find intact families who help each other out, people living in inner harmony and satisfaction. Aung lives in one of the few villages around Bagan. What he makes from his peanut field and palm orchard is enough to support his family of 5. The land is fertile. Here, no one starves. His son, Upo, builds a boat motor out of pieces of junk, using archaic 60-year-old technology from the British colonial era. The workers need to provide their combined muscle power to make tools and equipment using the most basic methods. Due to the shortage of material, creativity and talent for innovation are required. As always, U Min prays to the spirit of the tree before he climbs up 30 meters to harvest the sweet juice of his palmyra palm. It frightens me just to see him working so high up. Health insurance and pension plans are unknown here. Like all old people, Da On Mar, his 85-year-old grandmother, plays an important role in the life of the family. This human bond is visible all over. The soul of the country seems to be intact. But travelers tend to romanticize. For a foreigner, Myanmar appears to be a fairy tale world. This is a deceptive impression. The people here know the meaning of poverty. The country is taking tentative steps toward opening up. Many younger Burmese no longer have any desire to live in a fairy tale land. They no longer want to live in idyllic bamboo huts and ride in quaint ox carts. They're demanding what's been denied them for decades, to become part of the global economy. But at what price? What will happen when they leave their intact village life to move to the booming cities of Yangon or Mandalay? Will they be able to survive in the world of the new economy? Or will only a few profit from the new prosperity, while all the others live in misery in slums, like in neighboring countries? U Ba Tain and his wife still make the water jugs for the village. U Cha Te and his family still weave airy bamboo wall panels. And Tiri Sandar still makes up her face, like almost all the women and girls, with protective Tanaka paste. She's getting dressed up for a big celebration, the day in which her son Ko Mang Chi becomes a novice monk. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy prince. Siddhartha Gautama lived in a luxurious palace and dressed in fine clothes with gold and precious jewels. But one day he left his palace to discover the world. He was shocked by the misery of the people he encountered. So he gave up his family, his riches, and his power. He roamed for years, fasted, and meditated in order to achieve enlightenment. He became known the world over as the Buddha. The lives of Ko Mang Chi and his friends are about to change profoundly. Their heads are to be shaved, and they'll be allowed almost no possessions other than a robe and a begging bowl. On this day, they'll first become spoiled princes, and then austere monks. Thus they follow the steps of the Buddha. Life in the monastery is supposed to help them build character, to become friendly, kind, and humble. What's going on in the minds of these children? Do they grasp the deeper meaning of entering the monastery, or would they just rather hang up their robes on a nail and go play with their friends in the village? While most novices return to their families after 3 or 4 weeks, others stay in the monastery a lot longer. Poor families with many children sometimes willingly give up a son to be raised in the monastery. Often they stay for life. Days in the monastery are given over to meditation, study of religious teachings, and chanting of the Pali Canon, the ancient scripture of Theravada Buddhism. Images blend into each other in my mind, no matter whether I'm watching a farmer harvest rice or her sons reciting the sutras. Both happen at the same instant with the same meditative devotion in the rhythm of an eternal mantra. The country seems to pass by like some huge ship. Relationships unravel. The slow pace has caught up with me, like a traveler on a gigantic bamboo raft, which takes weeks to reach its destination. Suddenly, a motorized tidal wave descends upon me from all directions. Slowpokes risk being run over, and only those who make a dodging broken field run are able to cross over unharmed. Mandalay is suffused with remnants of its past as the last capital of the Burmese Empire. Now it's not only an important hub for the country's growing trade with China, but also a center for arts and crafts. It's somewhat disconcerting that exquisite works of art are being created in the midst of this traffic muddle. The city is half rural village and half metropolis. It's growing chaotically in all directions. At first glance, Mandalay fails to live up to its romantic history. Blanketed in exhaust fumes from motorcycles, tractors, and cars, dodging between improvised market stands and mobile food carts, I don't know whether to stay or run away. The hidden charms of Mandalay are revealed in the small details. Amid all the commotion, I meet with U La Aung, whose workshop lies directly on the busy road to Amarapura. It's a dusty courtyard full of unfinished figures. The 72-year-old artist works with only one hand. He burned the other in a hot cauldron. With amazing skill, he forms the wax model which will later be cast in bronze. Oblivious to the racket, these people concentrate on their work with meditative devotion. Perhaps they inherited this ability to disassociate themselves from the traffic noise and exhaust fumes. Orders for large sculptures come from China, especially the export model Buddha image. And U La Aung is especially proud of the orders he's received from America. Almost all the craft work here is religious in nature. The huge number of Buddha images, mass-produced here out of marble, always with the same physiognomy, are testimony to the depth of religious belief. Their work is holy, and their working place is consecrated. It can only be entered barefoot. Like parts of a machine, they beat gold. Around the world, owning gold is a symbol of material wealth, but not here, where it's given away. The beaters hammer a significant part of the country's gold into extremely thin tablets of gold leaf. Millions of believers stick the precious gold leaf on Buddha figures and pagodas as an offering to show their deep religious devotion. Globalization has reached Myanmar's cities. Yangon is a striving metropolis with an international airport, a population of over 5 million, with hundreds arriving from the countryside every day, a growing fleet of 700,000 cars, 5-star hotels, and nightclubs. It's a doorway to Western civilization, the modern way of life, the noise and stink of the 21st century. Is Buddhism a religion or a philosophy? Is it an intellectual subject for philosophical discussion, or the visions of a prince searching for enlightenment? The teachings of Siddhartha Gautama are without a doubt a religion without a god, which has significantly influenced numerous cultures. The unwavering refusal of Buddhism to deliver a predetermined answer for everything, and its call for everyone to seek answers for himself, make its teachings attractive to many. What's also comforting is that it lacks any call for holy war, does not claim to represent the holy truth, does not evangelize, and does not try to convince anyone to pray to any omnipotent God. Why do I travel? For one thing, to discover the world, its people, and their wonders for myself, rather than secondhand. And I travel because I want to learn something about myself. To be a stranger in a strange land is to deal with new languages and faces. And I learn how I'm going to deal with this strangeness, or not. In British colonial times, the former Kanda Craig Hotel was a so-called chummery, bachelor's quarters for employees of the Bombay Burma Trading Corporation. The English built these hill stations in the temperate highlands as a refuge for the hot season, when temperatures in the lower-lying areas often exceed 40 degrees Celsius. After independence, the building was used as a villa for political functionaries. Today, it's a state-owned hotel, indifferently managed with the apathetic charm of its recent socialist past. It's no wonder that I'm the sole guest. I'm visiting the Palong, a Mon Khmer people who live in isolation in the mountains. They subsist from growing tea, ginger, and vegetables and selling cheroot tobacco. When I meet them, a traveling salesman is there, peddling his cheap trousers from China. For the Palong, the world ends at the edge of the village, or perhaps at the end of the valley. They show little interest in what happens outside. As a traveler, for whom the world has become a more and more puzzling place, I almost envy this limited domain. Ko Wen Nang and his parents still live in a longhouse together with other families. But this traditional form of cooperative living is being increasingly replaced by soulless, state-subsidized single-family houses made from concrete. The modern house altar, powered by a generator, pours out a diet of lifestyle capitalism to the latest generation. I want to go further, to where Bollywood is not yet issuing from the idiot box in every third house. At age 22, Kain Pan, strong flower, is in the prime of life. She learned from Chow Lei how to drag the gigantic teak logs weighing up to 2 tons through the thick jungle. Every morning, the lady elephant and her partners are bathed and harnessed. Strong Flower is one of the 5,000 working elephants in Myanmar, the largest number in the world. Chow Lei is a mahout by profession, a state-employed elephant handler. He's guaranteed a wage of $5 a month and a sack of rice. From that, he has to feed himself, his wife, and 2 children. It takes about 4 years to train an elephant after it's been captured. The animal will then only accept its own mahout. Elephants are sent into retirement after about 20 years of service. It's a tragic irony that the working elephants themselves contribute to the deforestation of primary woodlands, involuntarily helping to destroy their own habitat. Early in the morning, before the sun is burning at full force, Chow Lei rides Strong Flower for hard work on the teak plantation. I'm surrounded by excited novices playing around just like other little girls do. For them, my visit is a welcome break from everyday routine in a monastery. In their candy-colored pink, They're a cheerful contrast to the monks dressed in their austere dark red robes. According to Buddhist belief, women cannot achieve the highest level of enlightenment and have to wait to be reborn as men. They pray for that every day. The pink worn by the nuns is lower in the clerical hierarchy than the red robes of the monks. Most of them have withdrawn from the cares, hopes, and disappointments of normal life into the protected, frugal life of the monastery. The 82-year-old abbess, Da Panami, founded it half a century ago and has become a living legend. At the beginning of Buddhism, nuns were much more respected than now and came under the protection of the monastic orders. According to tradition, the Buddha himself, after initial hesitation, approved an order of nuns. Despite their role as religious outsiders, many Burmese women still seek to become tilashin. Along with the desire for spiritual salvation, they're attracted by a life of security in an orderly and safe community, along with the hope of not being reborn as women. Like the monks, the nuns live exclusively from the donations of the people, although quite a bit more humbly. They give a part of the alms they receive to the monks, cooked and ready to eat. Filling the stomachs of the monks helps them make merit to improve their own karma. For his daughter, Sonang is both father and mother, an enigmatic being of ambiguous gender. The charismatic diva is a Nat Kada, a being married to a spirit, a jester and a shaman all in one, wealthy from the cash donations of those seeking counsel. The Nat Kada plays an important role as a medium for the 37 Nats, the spirits of dead heroes. The ancient belief in animism still coexists with Buddhism. The Nats are responsible for everyday problems. Buddha for the hereafter, explains a Burmese, laughing. Upan I directs his puppets like an orchestra conductor. The history of the Burmese marionette theater goes back more than 500 years. In the late 17th century, it was Burma's most important performing art. The masters achieved such a high standing that they were allowed to criticize the king himself in their puppet shows. After the fall of the Burmese Empire, the marionette theater lost its royal patronage and had to compete with other forms of entertainment, such as dance theater and later cinema and radio. When I asked 92-year-old Zagyi Pian, one of the last remaining old masters, for a sample of his work, he gives me a private performance in front of his house. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I meet the blind singer U San Chi on the U Bain Bridge near Mandalay. He comes here every morning to play and sing. Donations from passers-by are his only income. He says it's better in the evening around sunset. That's when the tourists come. Their houses are set on bamboo stilts, high over the wetland, and their world ends where the water ends. Once they were driven from the land. Since then, they live on the water and from the water. Ko Kyo-te says he learned to row shortly after he learned to walk. He became a fisherman just like his father and grandfather. The sons of the lake, the Intas, have created their own microcosm. Their life on Inle Lake is led according to the gentle rhythms of the water. "78-year-old Da Mama Nang says she learned as a young girl to spin the fibers of the lotus blossoms into thread. She now seldom leaves her home on the water. While the men fish on the lake or tend their floating gardens, she helps her daughter with housework, looks after her grandchildren, and together with her sister weaves precious cloth from the lotus flower, the symbol of purity. Time is measured according to strokes of the oars. The frantic pace of modern life is a long way away. It doesn't reach here. Ukko rows every day to his floating tomato beds. It takes decades for a fertile garden to be built up from fast-growing water hyacinth, reeds, and mud. Ko Mong Chi hurries to get to class on time. Education has a long tradition here. Along with state schools, monasteries provide education not only for novices, but also for other children. The abbot proudly explains that the first Europeans to visit Myanmar in the 16th century were surprised at the high level of education. Thanks to the monastery schools, almost all men and many women were able to read and write. I meet Ko Mong Chi and his friends after they've been for 4 weeks in the monastery. The boys have been practicing, and they've learned their place in the hierarchy of the religious community. They patiently join the long line of red robes on the daily rounds to fill alms bowls with rice. There are thousands of them. The population provides over 170,000 monks and countless novices and nuns with daily sustenance. Here, the donors give thanks to the takers. The people thank the monks for giving them the opportunity to make merit, to improve their karma. And this, too, is part of Buddhist life. Part of the food received as alms is given to needy people and also to animals, as an expression of regard for all forms of life. It is a land embodied in the austere rust red of the monks and the bright pink of the nuns. A land of contrasts and contradictions. A land which barely belongs in our modern time, where values from another, more peaceful era are still maintained. An era which I had believed had been lost forever.